Hi everybody, it's Kate Swoboda, also known as Kate Courageous, and today I'm talking about how to create a new habit. We don't often think about that, right? We have a lot of habits and they just kind of happen. And how do they get created? How does that actually work? Well, I'm going to be highly reductive here, so if there are any brain surgeons who happen to follow me on a social media platform, apologies in advance because I'm going to drastically simplify your field here. But in essence, there are different parts of the brain that control for behaviors, especially repeated behaviors. One of the parts of the brain that is involved in habit formation is the basal ganglia. I like to think of the basal ganglia as being like the project manager of the brain. You're going through your day, stimuli is coming at you at all times, and the basal ganglia is the project manager going, okay, this stimuli that is coming at me, what do I want to do with that? And the basal ganglia, the brain in general, really likes being able to predict, likes consistency. It's a little stressful for your brain when it doesn't know what to do with stimuli that's coming at it. So your brain likes to rely on whatever worked last time. So in habit formation, there is a cue, which is like the stimuli, the feelings of fear, the discomfort, the unexpected situation. There's a routine, which is the response to the cue. And then there's the reward. And the reward is anything that decreases stress in the brain. So if you have been wondering to yourself, why is it that whenever I am feeling really aggravated with a coworker, I feel like I just want to start drinking? Anybody had that experience? Maybe less so after a pandemic and people working more virtually. But if you've ever had an experience like that, the cue, routine, reward there is probably something like you feel some discomfort or agitation, and that's your cue. Your brain remembers that there was another time in your life where you had a glass of wine and it really relaxed you. So that it likes that routine, and your project manager in your brain is going, what did we do before to decrease the stress? And then the reward becomes the decrease of stress. Now, of course, I am not saying, hey, everybody, go handle all your life's problems by drinking. It's a reward. That's actually, in the long term, not going to serve you, and it can create addiction. So what do you want to do instead? When you notice that you have these patterns where you want to go after a dream and then you get caught in perfectionism, you want to create some kind of change in your life, but then you feel really pessimistic or you get comparisonitis. Well, the cue is the fear of going after that dream. The routine are things like the perfectionism, the pessimism. And in the short term, those routines actually get you to a reward. If I want to go after a dream and then I start going into perfectionism mode, that brings about some small sense of control. And that is a reward in the short term. Of course, what I want and what I think you want are rewards in the long term. Because perfectionism, while it might work in the short term, ultimately it's going to wear you down. So if you want to think about how to hijack that cue, routine, reward cycle, the interruption point is actually in the routine. You are never going to bubble wrap your entire life experience so that you never experience fear or cues. And it's pretty natural if you're stressed to want the reward. In simplistic terms, your brain wants the reward of less stress. So the entry point is always the routine. When you start to feel afraid, you're not trying to deny or negate that experience of fear, but you get savvy about the fact that you have a pattern for perfectionism, people-pleasing, pessimism, self-sabotage, whatever your fear routine is. And when you start to notice that routine coming up, you go, hold on a second. I want to create something different. I want to create a neural interruption in my brain so that I can get the longer lasting reward. What are some examples of neural interruptions? Well, I talk about those in my book, The Courage Habit, and I don't want this video to be a million years long. So I'm briefly going to say The Courage Habit is one resource you can turn to, and some of the interruptions that you can use would be slowing down and accessing the body, getting into your somatic experience, listening without attachment to what it is the fear is saying instead of trying to run from it, reframing limiting stories or internal narratives that you tell yourself, and reaching out and creating community. Those are all things that when I start to go into a fear pattern, I go, hold on a minute. I notice this perfectionism stuff coming up again, or I notice that pessimism coming up again. Let me pause. Can I reach out to a friend? Can I reframe something about my experience? Do I need to actually touch down into the authenticity of my anger and frustration right now? That's accessing the body. Because if I do any of those things as neural interruptions, I interrupt the old fear-based habit and I start getting into creating a longer lasting and ultimately more fulfilling courage habit.